Madeleine Villamil.
I'm Carina Lynn.
And I'm Margaret Castilia.
And this is
We Are One!
The 1982 Chinatown strike and the fight for workers' rights against New York's power structures. I'm here to share the story of my grandma and the Chinese immigrant women working in Chinatown's garment factories. They fought for their rights and held those in power accountable for their exploitation. Following the lift of the Chinese Exclusion Acts in 1943 and the 1965 Immigration and Nationality Acts, an influx of Chinese immigrants resulted in the rapid growth of New York City's garment industry. Driven by self-interest, skyrocketing rent, and competition among employers for skilled workers, Chinese entrepreneurs neglected workers' rights. A trend in New York City sweatshops even after the 1911 Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. Much like the sweatshops of the 1900s, work conditions were horrid, job security was non-existent, wages were low, and union contracts were often violated at will. Here is their story.
If you want to get paid, work fast and get used to inhaling the linden dust floating everywhere.
Mom, before you go on some water?
Better get started. They aren't paying you to sit here. Any New York department store can place an order for in-demand dresses and expect them to be done in a matter of days.
Papa!
Shuma? That's my 6-year-old granddaughter.
I helped cut the threads. Papa can call me useless now. Come.
Our entire family is at work, so there is no one to watch her at home. There are so many dangers here. I'm gonna check on her.
Yeah, did you hear? Kid from the factory across the street fell down the elevator shaft and died. The mom was fired because she delayed a big order.
Not even a day to grieve.
Ha! There's not even time to eat lunch.
Local 2325 of the ILGW tries to stabilize this precarious industry, yet the union still rejects our proposal for a daycare center. Said there was no funding and was none of their concern.
Some workers consider their employer a good boss because they allow kids to work alongside their guardians, violating labor laws. Kids would go to the factories and meet half of their class there. Just look at this. Bundles of cloth piled haphazardly, some taller than a worker, yet the union acts as if nothing is wrong. I'm sick of this place.
There's going to be another triangle party down here. I know it.
Negotiations for workers' rights began in March 1982. The International Ladies Garment Workers Union, ILGWU, led by its president, Jay Mazer and Katie Kwan, continued to face a stalemate against the Chinese contractors and employers.
While you enjoy your cozy home, us workers, pierced by the cold, suffer from kidney issues because there's no working toilets. Yet you voted on the contract again for our overwhelming majority. We deserve the right to work in a safe condition and receive fair wages.
Workers like Ms. Kwan make only $1 an hour, unprotected by any contract, because they are paid by the piece of clothing and not by the actual hour. It's your responsibility to make sure your workers are safe, healthy, and paid well. We demand that—
Don't tell me to shut up. We are all Chinese, and we can settle this ourselves. There's no need to go to a white man's union.
Exactly, Mr. A. $1 an hour can easily feed 5 months. We need for health funds.
we will make progress in our wages and benefits, even if we must strike.
You're too afraid to strike. You women can't afford to lose this job and income. Thousands of immigrants are willing to work more hours for lower wages. Why not employ them instead?
The strike would permanently damage the industry. I know you fear that renegotiating the contract would lead to further concessions. Let's go, Mr. Chen.
So how do you think, Mr. Baker?
Well, that didn't exactly understand.
So, it's time to strike.
Escalating tensions between the garment workers and their employers for a fair contract culminated in the 1982 Chinatown garment workers strike, resulting in a surge of Asian American activism nationwide. The strike began on June 24, 1982. Thousands of workers left their posts and gathered at Columbus Park to protest, and leaders of the movement made their speeches to the crowd.
My name is Katie Kwong. As a former garment worker, now a workers' representative, I work in the interest of workers to make sure that our human rights receive attention and respect. Today's meeting is the largest ever held in the history of Chinatown. We are here to show our solidarity, to show our perseverance, and to secure a just contract. According to the Constitution and the UN Declaration of Human Rights, we deserve the right to work in fair conditions and receive fair wages.
My name is Shui Ma Ka. I I've worked in these garment factories for 9 years now. The boss's attempt to break our union is like a grasshopper trying to stop a car in their tracks. They are daydreaming in broad daylight and acting like a blind bat trying to knock down a tree. We cannot accept this inferior treatment. We must unite to hold these bosses responsible. Today's men also need to wake up to the reality of the situation. They need to know that these thousands of years of women tolerating everything that they've done does not mean that it is right.
I am Alice Day. As a sewing woman for the past 6 years, I was very moved by these working women. Men come home expecting to be treated like kings, but we work hard, if not harder, balancing work and household responsibilities. Women have fought for their rights since the 1860s, and we will fight again. It's our time as women to make them listen.
I'm Jane Mazer, and while I'm a union man, I believe this strike will not only benefit these working women, but all of Chinatown. Though we come from many cultures and speak many different languages, we are all working, and as workers, we support one another. Anyone who sees this rally, this great mass of workers, will know a basic truth. We are one.
We are one! We are one! We are one!
The shop owners are flocking to sign a contract. Any luck with Mr. Chen?
I tried his apartment, but he wasn't there. Someone told me where he always eats lunch, though.
These women really think they can defend their rights by unionizing as a collective voice against employers.
Mr. Chen, enjoying your tea?
Sign this contract!
No, I will not. This is coercion. The contract.
The other contractors, they've all signed. I'm afraid you're the final holdout.
This strike only brought more unwanted government and media attention to the industry.
Don't stand in the way of our rights!
You spent hundreds of dollars fighting the union and New York City's Labor Department officials. The very people who should be holding you accountable.
Blame the union for this corruption. They hold even greater responsibility.
Don't you hold the same responsibility? The money should have been spent on actual improvements. Repaying the $80,000 you owe your workers in wages, installing working toilets, fire safety, heating.
Fine. Sign this contract. I want to be singled out and penalized.
Just 5 hours after the start of the strike, the workers' contract had been officially put into effect in all of Chinatown's garment shops, ensuring the protection of workers' rights, wages, and health. However, in the following decade after the strike, cheap labor globalization decimated New York City's garment industry, exacerbating the rising unemployment, inflation, and crime rates.
Is that who I think it is? It must be Katie!
This is it. It has been so long. You must be Suba, Mrs. Wong's granddaughter.
Hi, Katie. I heard a lot about you from Grandma.
The daycare center, which was constructed and opened within 2 years after the strike, gave Suba an education while I worked. Conditions and wages improved noticeably. Even my son changed attitudes. He now helps around the house, washing the dishes, folding the laundry, cooking.
I joined the union. They opened their doors to us after years of shutting us out. I still remember what my husband said the day after the strike. When fire singes the hairs on the skins of the women workers, they will rise up like tigers.
My chapter of the labor union women works to renegotiate contracts every 3 years. Definitely puts pressure on the contractors and employers by evoking the memory of the 1982 strike.
The strike was a pivotal moment where Asian immigrant women reclaimed the responsibility to advocate for their rights, empowering tens of thousands of women and impacting younger generations' viewpoints on their own rights and agency. It also highlighted the critical interplay between workers' rights and employers' responsibilities. Today, I have just published my first novel on growing up as an immigrant in America. I wrote about my experience working in a sweatshop as a young child alongside my grandma. I just want to say thank you, Grandma, Mrs. Ed, and Katie, for fighting. You may not have known it at the time, but you really inspired all workers who work in a union and left an inspiring example in history for marginalized minorities. So everyone, keep fighting.
加油！